pray. Father, we thank you for this day. God, I thank you for your blessings. God, I thank you for this board and their willingness to serve. God, I thank you for the school system and your hand upon it. I ask that you would be with us this morning. God, give us wisdom to make the best decisions for this school. And God, bless us throughout this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item we have this morning is the approval of the fiscal year 23 amended budget.
Okay. You can see this is the fiscal year 23 budget changes from the original general fund budget. First up, we have revenue adjustments. So our QBE to midterm allotment increased by $721,000. This is due mostly to the state health increase for certified half year, as well as other adjustments they've made, whether it's due to enrollment and other impacts. We also added impact aid revenue. We never budget for this. That's $245,000. We received it this year, so that's great because we can fund some other expenses. Our ad valorem taxes came in higher at $267,000 more. And then bus bond revenue, we decided to get 2 more buses than the original 2 we budgeted, so we will receive revenue for those 2 buses. We adjusted TABT, $40,000. State grants, we received some more state grant revenue. Tuition, we never budget for tuition, and so we had $14,000 with that come in, $1,000 per semester. And other revenue we did not receive during this year was we had to adjust the intangible real estate transfer tax. Last year it was coming in at like $15,000 a month. This year it's coming in at like $5,000 now, so we did have to reduce that. FLPA and other local revenue, we're not receiving that this year, and then flood control. So with that said, total revenue this year, we did increase it 1.4 million. But with that, we also had expenses we had to look at. We did remove the interpreter salary and benefits. We had a position there. We no longer need that, so therefore it's taken out. It's $58,000. We do have to add the half year that was also in that QB revenue. So offset that by that $320,000 of $635 per month starting in January. Bus bond expenses, because we added 2 buses, we also have to add the expense to that. The expense is a little bit more unless we get revenue for that confirmed. So that $200,000 up at the top minus this $260 means we have about $60,000 more in local expenses. We will be taking this one out, the ad purchase of truck for transportation department. This was in there from the transportation department of $55,000. They want a truck up for discussion. Transportation expenditures, the gas and other items were not as high as projected, so that is a savings of $26,000. Maintenance expenditures, this is all the M&O projects we do throughout the year. It's over $227,000, which is a big item. Transfer to school food, I originally had this one in. I believe we do have a fund balance in the school food to adjust that down after I was looking at it last night. And then also we have athletic admin and superintendent travel. That's up $7,100 just because that is a new expenditure we did not budget for, is athletic admin. And then we also had an OTPT new contractor for last year, so we do need to account for that going into the next year. So that's a total of around $900,000 of expenditures to offset that revenue, leaving us with total changes in a positive of $603 with revenue and expenditures. Can you go down a little bit? Okay, so this is all said and done in a format like this. And if we go down to the bottom, so this is our revenue we just talked about, this is our expenditures. Our fund balance on July 1st, 2022 was 2.260. And with all these changes, over and under, leaves us with an estimated fund balance this year of 2.6 million.
So this would close out the year as best we could. Obviously, it wouldn't be a total closeout, but this would adjust the budget to finalize 23, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I will say, I looked really hard at the numbers last night just to ensure, and talked with Kay, just to make sure everything looked right. And if y'all remember last year, we decided we were gonna close out with a fund balance of 2 million. We came in at 2.26, so we do have a little hedge of how we over expenditurize things. So, like, for instance, I'm assuming all salaries and benefits that I budgeted for at the beginning are gonna be actual here. Theoretically, you have people who didn't get certifications who we budgeted for until May, so that's 10,000. So we do have a little hedge, because we thought it was gonna be 2 million ending balance last year, it was 2.26. So you do have a $260 hedge of expenditures, just to make y'all feel a little better. But we don't like to budget that because that's our hedge. And basically it's impact aid, so.
The 260,000, right?
Yeah.
Any question?
Can you go back to the expenses page? The maintenance, now that's the buildings, the buses, is that everything? I mean, why is it so, why are we under budget, I guess is what I'm asking.
That's a good question, why we under budgeted, because obviously these things happen, so that is a question going forward. Going forward, I am budgeting more at a realistic one. I've talked with Jeff Miller and went through every single line item. He wants to be more realistic, and I think that's how we should budget. I don't like budgeting and having this number, so if we need to be realistic about this budget, 227. Now, a lot of that, I think, could be talked about and reduced down. Some of it needed to happen and it's just not budgeted for. I even have,
Is that something we need to look at in detail or not?
I can pull up some one-time only items that maintenance gave
I
me.
want to say, was it some HVAC or something that was one-time only deals that?
Mhm.
Some of that you can't control
Well,
because
that's what I'm
an
saying, some of that-
HVAC unit breaks or something like that.
You can't
Some
budget for that.
some of the items on there, though, are directed, such as baseball field, such as the things that we did at the old high school gym, trying to dress it up. Those kind of things weren't in the budget, but we went ahead and did them trying to meet the needs. So there is some one-time fixes in there, but there's also some additions. And I would love to go through the maintenance expenditures that are budgeted or requested for next year real close, so that we could all be happy with those and understand what those are.
That'd be nice. So the parking lot at the elementary school, that wasn't part of that money, was it?
No, that just,
That was the year before, I
year
guess.
before, but it affected fund balance, ultimately,
It did affect
Well,
it a little bit.
yeah, because everything carries over to next year, so that 163, even though it was last year,
Right.
made our fund balance go down for this current year. But it was a need, and we had the money for it then.
Well, I might speak out of turn here, but since we're in the current situation of we're gonna be without a CFO, and at our training, our number one priority by them, they hammer to us, is the money. I need to understand really good what the heck's going on.
So,
I'm just throwing that out there for y'all. I probably still won't know at the end of the day.
well, I can go through some one-time onlys with Jeff Miller that we went through. Other things were items that were just higher in price, but some of the one-time onlys, we had a basketball backboard for $3,000. We had a replace alarm power supply, $2,000. Asphalt repairs, 8,000. Water heater hookup, 2,000. Tinted window for cafeteria repair, 2,000. Tree removals, 3,000. Playground repair, 1,000. That was elementary school. Old campus, we only budgeted for 3,000. It ended up coming in at 36,000. So, and we don't get any revenue for that old campus, by the way. So everything we touch over there is local, so.
Do we get a,
Well, no, this is not Head Start. Head Start, we're funded, so 30, we got 30,000, we're expending 30,000. Head Start's
So,
good.
campus.
This is all non-Head Start stuff. So we had
Okay.
campus gutters for 9,000, rewire switches with Stephen Mann, like 7,000, sewer repair, 4,000, repair water line, 600, and then other maintenance expenditures around like 6,000, just like throughout the year, just maintenance. So that's a big expenditure. That's 30,000. LCHS, if we go there, gym floor, 3,000, gym pads, 10,000, wall paint, 7,000, pottery kiln, 3,000, media center countertops, 2,000, equipment such as that water heater we approved, 15,000. And other expenditures throughout the year just higher. And then groundskeeping, we budget only 40,000 for, and it came in at 66,000. So our grounds, the maintenance of those. So whether or not we're overdoing it or just not getting good prices, our maintenance and operation budget's not realistic. And if we continue doing what we're doing, it's gonna continue being that. I reduced it for this past year. I reduced it going into the next year. I said, we're not gonna do this excessive stuff, but if we need to, add 200,000.
so
The budget.
explain, can we go into detail a little bit more about this?
Yeah.
What, is that different than what we're paying the subcontractor, the Fox guy?
It would be above and beyond what we're paying him. So,
What is this, I mean, what is that?
well, as an example, there was a tree removal that was over at the elementary school, and that's not part of what he does.
Right.
If we ask him to do more than what's in his contract, then that would be above and beyond that. And some things are charged to grounds that we actually either repair or pay to repair out of the grounds budget that needs to be done.
Was $40,000 what you said though, right? More? I know you budgeted for
In
it.
grounds, yeah, that's seed and turf. That's more than what Kyle does with lawn. It's groundskeeping, it's everything.
So does that incorporate what Kyle, or the Fox guy does as well in there?
Yes, that's all part of it,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So that's part of his,
Yeah, he's in there. He's actually based a little bit less than what Blake Davis did, who was our last subcontractor. This is more of the seed and turf. Like last year it was like 7,000. This year it was 17,000.
so that's the fields. and-
That's the fields, yeah.
And
It's
all
not-
The top dressing, the overseeding, those kind of things that we do on the fields to try and maintain them and make them look nice. If you have a pipe that breaks that was either hit by a mower or just wears out, that's part of it. If we have to repair the pump that drives the sprinkler system, all of that would come under that same account number.
He don't do anything with the fields at all.
No, he does not touch the fields. That's not part of his contract. No, that's all our guys.
So when we're not doing the seating and top dressing though, we're getting other people
We're
to do
we're
that.
paying
right?
someone to do that.
Are we
yes.
going, so is that just, who's handling it, you or Hotchkiss?
Yes, but he gets me the prices and then I decide whether we're gonna spend that much or not this coming year, or it's actually starting next week, is Mike Nail.
So I guess in best business practices, are we doing like we do with others? Are we getting 2 and 3 bids?
Yes, sir, we are,
So
absolutely.
that's something I hadn't heard of or seen any
Yeah,
bids.
they're about 3,000 a field, it's about 2,500 a field. So it's not within that threshold where we would get the board approval or whether we would get even 3 bids. But I asked for 2 bids, trying to make it fair. So Mike Nail and the guy down in Vidalia that has done it in the past is who Coach Humpkins likes. And we went with Mike Nail this year because he's cheaper by about $5,000.
And that's for the 2 fields over here, the practice field, soccer field, and then,
Baseball field, softball field, and the main field, the football field, Buddy Buck.
oh, so that's 1, 2, 4 over here, 1 over there.
Right.
Okay.
And the threshold's what, 10,000?
5,000 to get 2 or more bids, 10,000 for the board to approve by item.
So I mean, when you have some of this maintenance stuff, I mean, if it's broke, we gotta fix it, I understand with the lawnmower or something. But in some of this stuff, if it's repairs, let's just go back to I mean, we don't want it to fall in, but if we take the old school over there, that's some of the things we may have to look at is cutting back and doing, the minimums, because we don't need to be over.
Totally agree.
And if we have that around here too, so it's just something I think we're going to have to look at with this overage.
Totally agree.
Um,
And I believe that's what
Con-
Ms. Dukes
control-
is hinting
yeah.
at. is that we need
Control
to-
it a little more.
Yeah, Ms. Dukes is saying the same thing.
It looks like the money's there, but it's really at the end of the day,
We need to rein it in. Yes, sir, I totally
So-
agree.
and that's what all the directors, everybody on the same page.
Mhm.
So to simplify this for me, so I can understand it, we budget $40,000 a year in maintenance expenditure. What is our budget number for that?
For maintenance and operations, what's our,
Yeah, whatever, yeah. I mean, this is saying we're $227,000 over whatever we budgeted.
yeah,
So what do we budget?
it's around 200,000.
So we spent more than twice of what we budgeted. I mean, all that,
It-
all of the things you said done add up to $227,000. That's a lot.
It doesn't, those are like one-time only items, the other
Oh.
items are
Okay.
everything else but at a higher price, so everything increased. Or we just didn't get the best price we did last time. But I would like to say also, I think this is a long time coming. I think we keep budgeting for maintenance at this low level, and it's always higher. Like if you looked at last year and we did the walk, maintenance was higher. I mean, it did have that 100,063 of the pavement,
Right.
but everything else was also higher. So every single year, this adds up without funding, really. You don't get funded.
And most things have doubled in cost
Well, that's right.
the last year.
That's why I mentioned heating and air. I know heating and air's gone up on me 30% 2 times. That's a much.
Yeah. So the one-time
So-
onlys are one-time onlys,
You have
and then
to
the other
change
ones
out
are
the
just,
units or whatever, you get a lot of money quick.
But we hadn't had any real heating and air issues. All that was ESSER fund money we're changing out.
As far as changing out, yes, but to repair an HVAC unit hanging on the side of the classroom, those comes out of maintenance.
Have we had a lot of problems with that?
I wouldn't say a lot, no, sir, but I think it's a consistent issue that, a compressor goes out or a fan motor goes out, those kind of things happen, and you've gotta have air in there.
And that's how you were saying about the old building over, that's what we got into before. What do you do with the old high school? Do you let it sit there? Do you paint it? Do you, and so it's, it's kind of a catch-22 thing, is you don't want the old building to go away, but if you're gonna keep the old building, same way with the old gym. It's not bringing us any revenue at all, but if we're
But
gonna
we
keep.
use the gym.
That's right, we do, and if we're gonna keep it, then there's gonna be things that's gotta be fixed on it, and that makes it, and it comes straight out of maintenance, but yet there's no money coming in for it.
What is the primary use of the gym at the old campus?
Middle school and, basketball practices over there too, don't they?
They're using both, all 3 gyms.
Okay.
Baseball things going in, middle school baseball's going
Middle
in.
school baseball practiced in there some.
Cheerleaders
and
are-
During football season, that's the
Well, they
visiting
don't-
locker room.
well, they're not competition anymore, so they probably won't go that much. Visiting teams,
Yeah.
So we also mentioned the bus bond expenses. That number is supposed, we don't have any, you hadn't received any documentation, because to my knowledge, I thought we were gonna get 30,000 per bus that we purchased, if I'm not mistaken. So we don't have anything that would eliminate that?
We do, and at the time, Ms. Dukes didn't have that information. I talked to John Osborne yesterday. The 30,000 you're talking about is per bus that we would give them, that is a diesel bus, that they would drill the hole in the block and all of that kind of stuff. We were passed on the first round of the Clean Bus Act. We did not get approved. We're applying for it for the second time, so it's coming, we just have to get that. What I'm gonna recommend for next year's budget is to not buy 2 more buses, because you remember that we had 6 that we were allotted. The money that we received was for 4, but there was 2 more that we had to pay for. And remember, we ordered 4 right out of the hat so that we could get those new 4 buses. So the 2 that we are supposed to spend the rest of our money on to match that, I'm gonna recommend that we don't spend that until the following year, because we have until June of '25 to actually spend that money. So that would reduce our expenditures by 200,000, which would be obviously a benefit for us. And in talking to John yesterday, as we apply for that same diesel, $30,000 for each diesel bus, as we get those, then we can turn around and use that towards buying those buses as well. But we have to apply for it and we have to get accepted. Last year, we didn't get accepted, so the bigger schools got accepted before us is what happened.
But when we voted on this,
Mhm.
and I may be wrong, we had the allotment for the buses we were getting from the grants.
That's correct.
And then we were told that we were gonna get the other money to offset the cost, and that's why we approved this.
That's correct.
So- But we didn't have that.
We haven't received that money because we got denied because we weren't in that first run of the 30,000 per diesel bus. But we still have time to get it, and we haven't spent that money. Because we got the money for the 4 buses. We didn't get the
Yeah,
money for the other 2.
We still have how much was each?
Each one's 130, and we're definitely getting 100,000 per bus, so that's 30,000
That
per.
we were short.
Yeah, 30,000 times
And-
4.
and if I'm not mistaken, it was presented. Am I
But
wrong?
I didn't receive any approval letter from Godot, so I'm not budgeting for that, because that's not a definite cost, that's we have to apply.
I'm just saying when we made the approval to purchase
Y'all,
it.
y'all assumed we were getting 30,000.
Yeah,
but
because that was the
that's-
information. I'm just
Yes.
clarifying for the budget.
Yes, that we
The
were
vote
gonna
that
get.
was made
Mhm.
was saying we were gonna get $30,000 times 4,
Mhm. But that's not definite.
obviously.
That was definitely the plan from our side, but the state did not approve it.
I mean,
You got a good idea we might get it this year?
I don't know anything about
idea.
I was
those.
told
That's-
by
that's
John
Fred
Osborne
and Dr. Light.
yesterday that we should get it this year. We just weren't approved last year because the big systems got it last year. That's what I was told yesterday, which is why I called John Osborne to figure out what's going on.
so do we need to put a line item in there that realizes that at this point, we're not getting that money?
That's what that is.
That's the bottom line, yeah.
That's how we're getting that 200,000, but we're paying an extra, like, over.
But I remember the conversation, I'm just putting it out there, there was an email saying we were gonna get that. There was an email.
Definitely the plan, no question.
Well, obviously, that fell through. Communication.
So,
Well, we talked about not getting it when we didn't get approved in October. We talked about it in here. I remember that very well.
But when we approved the 4, it was saying we were gonna get that money.
Well, we got the money for the 4, we just didn't get the 30,000 additional.
We were gonna get it all. That was what was said.
That piece I couldn't control.
So if we do get that somehow, then yes, our fund balance will increase, but I'm not budgeting for that.
so to make sure I understand this, so we actually got $600,000 for 6 buses. Is that right?
100 times 6,
6.
but we
We only
purchased
ordered 4.
4.
Okay, so we're going, and Dr. Light says he recommends we're gonna wait and not order them.
Not ordered 2 of them. So we ordered 4 this year. I don't know when they're coming in. So that's also a thing we need to talk about, because that will change our general fund. If we don't receive them, we can't get revenue or expenses for them. We don't get invoiced. But we also still have 30 times 4 to pay out of general fund. That's 120,000 if we don't get that extra revenue to cover it.
I guess I'm sitting here thinking we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because I don't know what the price was from the time we ordered them to now, but I don't know what it'll be from the time we got the grant money to when we decide to order the other 2. We could only get 1 for 200,000.
According to Bluebird yesterday, we were looking at about 145,000 now for a bus. The reason that we don't have the 4 is they're waiting on kill switches in the battery compartment to be completed before they can send us the 4. Otherwise, those buses are ready to go. In fact, we even offered yesterday to send drivers down there to get them. They're setting and making. But until that kill switch is done, they cannot release them to send to us. So that being said, we can't get them until that's here.
Okay, so back to my original thought here. They cost $130,000 when we bought it. You said now they cost $145,000.
That's right.
If we wait another year, they're gonna cost $160,000.
They may.
Potentially, or $180,000.
They may, I don't
So I'm
know.
just trying to it's just,
I'm just trying to reduce cost wherever I can so that we're not blowing out another budget and trying to make it realistic. So in waiting 2 years, that also, or waiting another year, that gives us that time to get the money for the diesel buses that we're gonna turn in and the state's gonna pay us for.
okay. I'm like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I say that one more
I
time.
understand. I don't either.
So, anyway. I don't know, how are we on buses? I mean, we're gonna be in good shape when we get these 4?
Well, as we talked to Fred at the meeting on the 9th,
Mm-hmm.
those 4 should give us everything, but I think he said 1 with air conditioning, I think.
But he said all of them would be propane except the spares.
Right.
At that
Yeah.
point. Everything will be propane, but the spares will be diesel.
And I think all of them will be air conditioned, because I think only 2 are not air conditioned now. My best recollection. This micromanaging is tough work.
So the half-year state health care, moving to the next one, that's something we can't control, right? That's automatic,
And
correct?
that's being funded by QBE, that's why QBE increased.
Okay.
They're also gonna turn around and hit us with the non-certificated healthcare increase in '24, again, that we can't control. And that starts in January of '24.
I'm estimating that based off of something I saw, but it's not definite yet, so I'm just making sure we're
That's what you
aware.
budgeted, which I
That's how I
totally
budgeted.
agree with.
Yep.
So do we have any, as our ESSER money, has it been spent as far as, when I'm looking at maintenance? There's no way to move,
Not now, because we've already identified or expended it for, as an example, the HVACs that have already been delivered. We don't have all of them yet, we got most of them for the new high school, that they'll be set this summer. So that pretty much exhausts our ESSER funds. Now, I don't want to speak out of turn, there may be a little bit left, but I don't know that there's a whole lot left. That would
We're
exhaust our
exhausted,
ESSER.
we're fully committed
There you go.
at this point.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we're in the last stage of that, I mean, all the others been spent, and that was,
Right, and of course, you got the floor over there that's going to be done this summer as well.
but that's covered under the
That's
ESSER.
ESSER funds, right. But it's committed, as our CFO identified.
And all that's in line, no problems there?
Correct.
Is that right?
Right, it's now in line, yeah, everything's good with ESSER now.
What does that mean? Everything's good with this or now?
I mean, it took me like 2 months to make sure we were compliant with Davis-Bacon to get, that's why y'all are receiving budget in end of May instead of April. We weren't compliant with ESSER funds. They wanted us to send back a lot of money. And so I had to reach out, do some journal entries, and get things fixed for us to not pay back money. So we are now good.
That's because we were not paying enough labor with the Davis.
We did projects without Davis-Bacon and without, I think, some architectural stuff that we had to do. We did it, and that cost us a little bit extra money. That's why I think our new bids for, not flooring, but HVAC is so high, because we have to do Davis-Bacon requirements. We didn't do Davis-Bacon requirements, but I was able to get Lively's, Thompson, and another one, an asbestos company, to send me information that they had to backtrack on, so it took a while for them to say that they were compliant. But we are now fine with ESSER. We're not paying back any money.
And that's because she did a heck of a lot of work and did a very good job at it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. So that's just basically, you know, you got to turn in your weekly payroll
you.
through Davis-Bacon Wage Act information, which is a lot.
It is.
It is,
We've done it
You
for
have to-
different jobs.
but we had to have bid it out that way, and we didn't bid it out that way. So they could have not been compliant, we would have had to pay all that money back.
Okay, so what can we learn in the future from that? Who did the bidding?
I think in the
Alright.
future, if you have federal funds, we have to have someone really managing federal funds and looking at all the requirements for federal funds.
Which is why
Who
the
would be-
HVAC was bid Davis-Bacon and why Lively was bid Davis-Bacon and said it in there 9 different times.
Who does that?
I do that and our architect does that.
Okay. This ain't new architect guy.
This is Buckley and Associates, yes.
Okay.
Is Jeff getting up to par on all that too? I mean,
Yes.
Is he involved in
Yes.
understanding this?
He
I
is
mean, the more heads we got
looking at it.
looking at it, that we
Absolutely.
don't miss this, cause
That's correct. And there was some confusion at the very beginning when we received ESSER funds, there wasn't a mention of Davis-Bacon. And then they came out and said, since this is federal funds, now we have to do Davis-Bacon. And our attorney said, how can we do Davis-Bacon when we don't have a comparison like they do for unions up in the north, which would be New York, Illinois, et cetera. So there was a question whether we even had to have it. So we had or received the money for the first year with no guidance that we needed Davis-Bacon. And then they turned around and said, you gotta do Davis-Bacon, after we had already had the money for a year. So there was definitely some confusion across the state, and everybody's going through what we did. They just don't have the blessing of Ms. Dukes to be able to put it all together the way she did.
So everybody's happy.
So Ms. Dukes and Esser is happy. I don't know about the other districts. They're on their own.
Okay.
Well, I'm not happy. I spent hours doing it, but here we are.
I'm happy.
Y'all are happy.
I'm
My
happy.
community's happy.
Thank you.
So I'm going back to the very top of just QBE, the midterm allotment, 721. And is that's a standard thing that happens every year?
No, I mean, this QB allotment right here, about 300 and something thousand of it is state health. The other one is due to enrollment and other items, mostly LCES.
Okay, so $400,000 is due to
That's what-
enrollment and other items.
Mhm.
That many more students.
Is that what
the way,
they-
and the way we're providing them services through the instructional specialist.
Then, okay. How
So
many-
that QBE, when we get more students, you get more money because we're getting more students. And then depending on how you schedule them, if you provide them intervention services like we do with Megan and Amanda, you get more money.
And I did a huge little analysis last night because I wanted to look at QB a little bit further. Elementary school is the only one who is actually getting fully funded for QBE. They're the ones that are not overstaffed. Middle school's overstaffed and high school's overstaffed and CTAE is overstaffed. But elementary school is the only one fully reaching their potential with QBE. That was a hard analysis, but it was good. It was happy. But y'all are doing good, LCES. So they're fully funded in SPED. It's just we're overstaffed in other areas. But QB midterm allotments, when we're looking at this year, we did increase, but we're expending just as much. So that 400,000, we've been expending it. They have not increased that much this year in expenditures. We're just now being funded for it.
I would like to see where we're overstaffed at the high school and the middle school. How many teachers are the local funds totally paying for, and how many of them are we getting?
So they don't tell us exactly, but last night I did put together a QB, what we get for high school, and then I looked at all of our certified personnel at the high school, not including principals. And like I said, this is a rough estimate, so they don't give us exacts. It looks about like 6 people in the high school.
Does that mean 6 teachers
6
or
teachers.
just,
Yeah, well, yes, all teachers. They're all 6 certified personnel. overstaffed, based off of what QBE wants to give us. So that means we're funding them locally.
I was looking at 3. I wasn't-
3.23 or something
Yeah,
last I
that's
figured,
about
and I
right.
could be wrong too, I didn't.
Yeah,
But it
so,
was 3 point something, that's why when Ms. Atkins resigned, I said, do not fill that spot.
and
We're
that's
gonna be fiscally
CTAE.
That's CTAE.
Yeah, so that's CTAE, so not even high school, but looking at like, just what we're looking at, because what
Can we see
QBE thinks we're getting and what we're paying a person, I think it's just looking at salary. We have to take into effect the state health and all that. Our QBE for the high school, we're receiving 1.02 million. Our salaries and benefits for certified people coded to that high school code, just certified, I'm not talking about parapros or anyone, we're at 1.6 this year.
600,000.
600,000?
Yeah, so we're over 600,000. And so, as much as we like to say QB is funding us, QB is not funding us. Because our salaries and benefits are also being funded by, I don't know, I'm just saying that they're not funding us fully. Like, so when we think we're getting a person, they're paying us 60 for a person, they cost us 100. So we gotta think about that. Like, whenever we say, oh, we're adding a new position because QB is giving us more money, it's not hand in hand. Like, I see it right now. QBE, high school, 1 million, salaries and benefits is 1.6. And I'm not taking into FICA or workers' comp. I'm just doing salary, state health, because they fund state health, supposedly based off the increase that we got, and TRS at 19.98%. That's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm comparing to.
And you calculated in the 5 mil share?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just checking. I mean, I wasn't able to go through
Is that,
your calculation with you.
now, Dr. Walsh said that, well, it'd been like 4.3 people, including Miss Atkins at the time?
No, but that was what I was trying to do with that. I know we locally fund art, I think, still, and then, so that's, and I've had this discussion with Taylor at the beginning of the thing, and if we have a teacher leave, I suggest that we not bring that back. Like, we're just over, and we know a recession's coming, and like y'all all said multiple times, prices have been doubling. That's why when we got her resignation, my first suggestion to Dr. Light was, I'm not recommending we fill this position because we're over. And, you know,
I'm kind of like Jim. I would like to understand it in more detail because as the future rolls in and we possibly don't get the money we need, we're gonna have to make critical decisions.
Well, and I think one of the things Taylor's trying to explain is as we earn FTE for one teacher, we don't receive that full value in dollars from the state, which is QBE dollars. So
Right.
let's say a full teacher cost us, I'm picking a number, $100,000 for round numbers.
Yeah.
We're only getting 60,000 from the state. So that 40 is what the local funds would have to pick up the difference. That being said, we're a bit under. Now, Dr. Walski and I believe Taylor and I, but I know Dr. Walski and I had talked about earlier in the year, we do have more teachers than we earn at the high school because of CTAE, which is why we had that conversation about Ms. Adkins. But we also offer a lot for our kids in CTAE that I believe is truly necessary. So yes, we do spend a little bit more. We know that the middle school is only funded for a half-time assistant principal because of the size of the school. We choose to buy a full assistant principal for the size of the school. We have to pay for that.
What's the number for the middle, you got the number for the middle school?
Yeah, looking at it, and this is just my analysis last night, like, so if there's a better analysis, I just looked at money versus what we're paying, it's around 3.
3.
3 teachers.
3 teachers, but like I said, it could just be like one, if you're looking at QB staffing, but we have to pay a little bit more. Like, I'm looking at just, they're coming in at 1.1, we're paying 1.4.
Wow.
Yeah, so 300,000, 300 and something, and so,
High school,
That's
middle,
middle
we paying
school?
$1 million.
Middle school.
That's middle school? Is that the same amount of teachers in both places?
No.
No, there's less children in the middle school than
That's what I was thinking.
That's correct.
3 grades.
But the salaries is,
Well, and you also have to look at the age of the teachers based on if you have a bunch of new teachers at one school, then they're gonna be cheaper than a bunch of experienced
Yeah.
teachers.
It's a lot
That's
of.
all
lot
part of
things.
those figurings that you've gotta
Yeah.
compute.
And
And
they
we
don't,
also, I'm sorry, we also get money for gifted, remedial, T&E,
Right.
things like that, which I don't know if that was in what you
Mhm.
did, so,
I put that in,
okay.
just to account for that, because we were way over, and so I did put that in, but it's, QBE is not giving us exactly what we're paying,
Right.
is all I'm saying.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
And,
$900,000.
So like Dr. Walski said, we just gotta be coherent of when we're hiring and what we're doing.
yeah, like he's
That
saving money.
we're not adding new positions. We're filling the positions we need to fill
That's correct.
at this point, but not
Not all.
adding new positions,
We
which
just need
is,
to know exactly what we're doing,
Yeah.
instead of just writing a check and just hoping the money's there. That's what I'm saying. No, I didn't mean to speak out of turn, Kyle,
no,
Part of working through all of these budgets is understanding that we don't have all the answers when we sit and do this. One of the things that I still don't understand why education does it, I've been doing this for 37 years. We decide a budget before July 1. We find out what our taxes are gonna be in September. We start receiving our taxes in December, January. How do you fix a budget when you don't know what the answer is gonna be on revenues over here? That makes no sense. And that's part of what Ms. Dukes tries to struggle with when she does it, or Kay Buffer did it when she did it, trying to figure out how to make all this fit. I talked to Kenny Adair yesterday. He's expecting a 2.8% increase. Now, we all know that the value of property in Lincoln County has gone up. Is that enough? I don't know. This is Kenny's crystal ball. But that's the increase that we have to calculate on and hope that that comes in. That's part of dealing with what we do. When the governor gives us money for a raise for teachers for $2,000 like he did this year, we get the $2,000, but we don't get the increase in FICA that we have to pay, Medicare that we have to pay, and the other benefits that we have to pay. So all of that comes out of local funds to try and offset that, which is why superintendents argue with legislation saying you're not fully funding QBE. And all of that has to balance when we get into this budget stage. So it is extremely complicated. Yes, it is. I agree.
But at the end of the day, you got a bucket that has to be full to pay all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And as Chris said, it's either gonna be tough decisions made at that time, or the millage rate's gotta go up to get the money.
Well, and that-
One of two, right?
That's always an
I
option.
mean,
You're right.
I mean, and nobody wants to hear that, but
That's true.
neither of the one is a good result.
Good
but,
answer. Correct.
But unfortunately, that's what you're looking at when you get to,
When you get down to where you've got too much in the negative, yes.
Yeah.
And in the past 8 years, we have not gone up on the millage rate. We haven't done that.
because we've had the luxury of the values and properties being built.
That's
But you said he estimated it next year would be
2.8% is what he said.
2%.
2.8% is what he said.
I talked to Kenny too, and he said that it was $100,000 increase.
He told me yesterday 2.8%, so I basically did it to about 150,000. That's what he told me yesterday. So we're real close there.
Okay, so I guess another question. This add purchase of truck for transportation department, 55,000.
That was put in from the transportation department, but we can, yeah, but there's a star, so we can, take that out. Because y'all have to approve that anyway at a board meeting or any type of like quotes and stuff that's over that threshold. But we can take that out to save us 55,000.
And they done saved 26,000, right?
They have saved us 26,000. They over budgeted in diesel and gas and like just all propane and all that stuff. So they transportation, we have been seeing favorability, and they've been offsetting a lot of maintenance for the past, like, I looked at it like 3 years, because they over budget in gas and they never come in at that.
So when we go forward, I know it's a smaller number, but it is a number. The athletic admin and superintendent travel, when we budgeted it for next year,
Or is
I
that,
budgeted
is
for
that,
next
is
year.
that stuff that just came up? Or is that something that needs to be budgeted?
That was a increase in a budget item based on sending an administrator to each away game, is where that increase came from.
Playoff game? We're talking
All
about?
games. The board decided that an administrator needed to be at every away game, some type of game manager. Now, sometimes that was me, a lot of times that was Dr. Walski or Miss Jordan, sometimes Michael, sometimes Dr. Gumby. Somehow there was an administrator at every away game. Now, part of the conversation is, do we want to do that again? According to GHSA, the home team is responsible for a game manager. We as a board took it upon ourselves to direct us to have somebody at all of our away games. So that cost us in mileage and those kind of things, is what that increase is.
Can you remind us of the reason why we decided that?
Because of the social circle game. The social circle game had,
Basketball game, right?
yes, sir, and it had a problem in their stands with their people and their police department. And our folks weren't involved in it, other than they were on the floor or on our side, but were uncomfortable. So, and Mr. Madden was there, but there wasn't a principal or a superintendent or an administrator there. And it was recommended that we have an administrator at every game. So we have been doing that, but it costs more because of travel. So the question is, do we want to continue that? For some games, obvious games, Washington Wilkes is a rivalry. We need to have administrators there. I think the same for Aquinas is a rivalry. We need to have administrators there. Beyond that, unless we're expecting something, if it's an away game, I'm not sure that we need an administrator there. We have either a coach there or the team that is on the field is there. I don't think we need an administrator there, but that's my opinion. If the board tells us we're going to do that, then we're going to continue. Dr. Walski's welcome to speak to that if you want him to. Sorry.
Mr. Williams, you've been a coach before. What do you think about it?
We're the only school that does that.
So you don't think we should?
Yeah, my cousin, AD in Greene County, home games, away games that are, you know, you figure may have an issue. But if the coach is there, if the boys are playing, got the girls coach, the coach should maintain the team. And, you know, and they figure out, you know, amongst themselves, hey, can we go? But when you get to the spring, I don't, you know, you get to the spring, every soccer game, you know, and then you get to the point where people who do soccer and other, they feel like, why nobody never there? So you make a choice that let's kind of go to the, I guess, minor sports. You know, you have that issue conflict of why y'all don't go to football games or basketball games. But when you're playing, what, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Monday, and then you're involving us at the board, when we're leaving to go to games, it's just not enough people to handle it. And I haven't had a single district, GMC, Monticello, Thompson, where they went to every, you know, you make the football, basketball, but even basketball Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, if we went far enough away, there's nobody but the coaches and the SRO. And then the other sports, you would kind of pick and choose who would go, so that there will be some representation. But us being there doesn't change anything with what's going on at school, because that's not our school. All we can do is just, hey, if something happened, get our players off and leave. But the coach who was there could have did that.
Yeah, what could an administrator do if there was an issue
Well,
beyond what a coach could do?
Let me help you out a minute, because I'm on a different interpretation of what we were doing. My interpretation on some of this is we had community coaches that were there, and we didn't have representation at some of the games, and that's what we wanted.
We have to have certified coaches. In the state of Georgia, you can't have a head coach at the high school level that's not a certified person. So a couple of years ago when softball was a community coach, Ms. Deason was technically the head coach because she's certified. So she was at every game, everything, because she had to be according to GHSA rules.
Middle school's not under GHSA
GHSA.
rules, so middle school could have a community coach.
Okay.
So the community coach being in charge, or the head coach, you would have to have a certified person there. As an example, Mr. Barnett or Coach or Mrs. Burke. Somebody like that would have to be at a middle school game, so there's a certified person there.
Because when I was head coach, when I had I had to go to all the middle school basketball games because my coach was a community coach. So I did do that, even though you're not technically have to, because in middle school, you're not GHSA rules. But Ms. Burton made, when same way with Chauncey or the coaches now, either I went to the middle school game, and maybe because my daughter was playing, or one of those administrators that would be the person. But they do that, and they're limited in the number of games.
And GHSA requires you to go to all state playoff games, we have to have an administrator there, so.
But in regular games, when we leave here, and this is just going back to some conversation, is having that designated person. And I'm not saying it has to be a administrator, but if we go to Aquinas, I mean, tell me where the expense is in going to Aquinas.
55 cents a mile for me. If it's over 12 hours, you're paying for dinner. If it's overnight or such a distance away, and we had to get a hotel, which is very uncommon during the regular season, to do that. I'll just be honest, I think I'm up probably around 3,500, probably about almost half of that is me. And
So my take on that, if we eliminated that, we do need somebody that we know from our school. If you didn't go,
no, sir.
we
Only
don't.
for state playoff games. I talked, much like Mr. Williams, I talked to quite a few ADs about this, and they said, I firmly 100% believe we're the only school in the state of Georgia doing this.
So to my recollection, how this actually happened was Miss Dee Barksdale was on the board at the time, and she was at the social circle game, and her daughter was there, and of course the coach was there, and Mr. Madden was there. And just like Dr. Light said, nothing, I think they came across to our side, I don't know, but she said that it was out of control and something needed to be done. So at that point is when we decided that, you know, we could not trust other school systems to maintain our kids' safety. So that's kind of what it was.
I can't do anything if I'm at social circle anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I don't-
Police
that was my
officer,
question.
I don't see what an administrator can do beyond what a coach could do.
outside of looking at a parent going, quit running your mouth, which I've had to do a couple of times. I mean, and what good is that? I mean, even on an away game,
Right.
forget you, man.
So if
Thank
we
you.
had coaches there and we had Mr. Madden there, and it got out of hand,
And Mr.
What was
Madden
we-
goes because he likes to go.
what was we accomplishing?
Like, he wants to go.
What was we accomplishing
He don't wanna go
if we
home.
had, if we had coaches there and
You said that.
administrators there?
Well, it also came back too, that we had if we don't have that, we need somebody designated that's gonna be, who's in charge
The head
from our
coach.
school.
Right.
And if it's the coach, it's the coach, I guess.
Well, that's what I was.
You see what I'm saying? So if something does happen, we have a go-to person where I can say, and I'm just using Mr. Heitman, I can say,
Right.
Mr. Heitman, explain to me what happened. So
Right.
but if you don't have somebody that is appointed to be there, who appoints that person?
Well, it's
If
18
it's
years,
a school teacher, that's fine. If
18
it's,
years as a head coach, nobody ever had to tell me I was in charge of that basketball team when I was there. Like, I knew, like, that's done. And nobody ever had to say that. And they were, when I was at North Paulding, if we were going to Paulding County, my athletic director was going to be there. That was a rivalry, or East Paulding especially. But outside of rivalry games, and that's just simply to be there for our, because if it's one of our kids doing something stupid, sit down. You know, that's not a big deal. But to be honest, 99% of our problems that happen at away games are parents. I got no control over the parents. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't have any problem with y'all trusting y'all to decide when you need to go. I mean, if the head coach can't handle the team, like you said, the parents on their own.
And I'm not gonna lie, it about killed me this year. It absolutely
so that's
wiped
something
me
we
out.
Did we
I've
vote
had
on
to
that,
pull
or
over
we
on
just
the side of the
decided?
road 3 different times coming home because I was
Just
falling
decided.
asleep after a
So
full
we
day
can
of
just-
work.
did it.
As long as we got somebody
As
there.
long as you got a coach there.
Yeah, so we can help that.
Which would also cut a line item out of this.
So, I
Or
mean,
reduce
every
it.
little bit, every little bit
without
help.
question. Totally agree.
Mr. Williams wants to speak.
I also just go back to what they did when Dr. Gunby and Coach Banks and Mr. Madden, just kind of what they did, you know. And you're going to get complaints of people saying why you ain't in all the soccer games. But I think just go back to what was done with Dr. Gunby, Coach Banks, and Mr. Madden, how did y'all do it?
We just look, I think Dr. Watson does, we just looked at the schedule, pick out the high flyer games that something might happen and make sure that just did a rotation, make sure someone was there. Now, I had Mr. Madden won't be at everything. So I can't sit here and say that mine was better than his, but Mr. Madden wants to go to every game. And if you're there, he'll tell you to go home, so, but I do trust the other principals, we do talk. And then when they come to my school, I make sure I have security. When I was principal, I make sure of all of that. In a social circle, there's nothing that that principal could have done except call the police. So,
So recommended to cut from this, and I'm trying to help the board here, the purchase of the truck for transportation, the 7,100 that we went over. Can you go back to what was budgeted initially for that line item?
Which one? Oh,
Well,
So there will be some expense. This was just over.
Right.
so the purchase of the truck, we just didn't talk about any, right?
Well, and
I mean, do we need a truck? Or do we need to
we
talk
kind
about it now?
of
or-
we kind of talked about that before. I'd be more than happy to talk about it now. It's a 1982 model, so it's not a brand new truck by any means. This truck is used to go to a bus being broken down that either doesn't have any children on it or it's so close that they can get to school. As an example, when a bus driver ran out of fuel up here on Meadowsville Road, Randy drove this truck up here to fill up, or to at least put some fuel in it so that he can get it running again. That's the designation of this truck, is to assist with maintenance and repairs. If he's got to go very far, he does not take this vehicle because it's not a reliable vehicle. So they have requested to replace it. I just think from a budget standpoint, right now is not a good time to replace it, in my opinion. But if the board decides, then we'll do whatever the board decides. I'm just giving you my opinion.
But that's not a new truck.
No, that's not. That's a used vehicle that they found.
Okay, so when somebody asks me if I need to spend some money, I always like to know how much money I got. So if we look at the very bottom, is that how much money difference in ending fund balance from original budget? That's not
All the way down is how much,
the very bottom, 864. That's the difference.
oh, I have it on mine, I'm sorry. Ending fund balance proposed before we make any cuts is 2.6 million.
2.6 million.
Really 1.6 of usable.
Really 1.6.
1.6 of usable.
Because $1 million of it is CDs, investments.
Yeah, we can take it out, can't you?
We
We
can, yes, but
So 1 million is CDs. That's back to my question from several months ago. Okay. Well. So 1.6 million. So do we anticipate anything other than the extra possible $100,000? Do we anticipate any increases or decreases? I mean,
So I will say, the way we budget this year, I looked at it last night, we do have a hedge with salaries that we always have. So how last year we said we're gonna have ending fund balance of 2 million, actuals ended up being 2.2 million. So we do have a $200 hedge, but we never wanna put that in there because that's our hedge for some $200,
200,000.
200,000, yes.
Yeah.
200,000.
So theoretically, this could increase by 200,000 once June closes because of salaries. Like we had people who we thought were gonna get masters and didn't. I put them in at a master level. We had people who were on maternity leave, 5 people, they didn't get their full salary. You know, so,
So the QBE, you don't see any changes in it,
QBE
increase, or, I mean, that's, isn't that where our money comes from, QBE?
The state money is QBE money.
Okay, so that's the biggest thing, so
Right.
we're good with the QBE, there ain't gonna be any problem with it. It's
not
gonna be-
in fiscal year 23, this is what we're looking at,
Yeah,
so.
this
fiscal
is
year
all
23.
23 that we're trying to close out here.
Oh, okay,
We haven't got to 24 yet.
okay. That's where I need to be looking at 24. So we're talking about spending $55,000 in a month. Is that right? For a truck?
If the board decides to do that, we could try and find a truck for that and replace that truck if that's what the board wants to do.
Well, the man done saved $26,000. So, I don't know. I'd have to hear from him.
Obviously, that would have to come before the board for approval because
Right.
it's well over that $10,000 limit.
Right,
So we would have to do that in June if we decide to do that.
okay,
And if the board wants that, I need to know so that I can get you some 3 quality bids.
okay. Yeah, I'd just like to hear Fred's reasoning, he needs a new truck. Oh, there he is right there. You gonna wait till the next meeting or let him tell us now?
It's up to you, sir.
The truck we got is 1983. We can't even hardly even get out of Lincoln in it. And we have all kind of mechanical problems with it. The one that I looked at is not brand new. We don't need anything new. And for as mile wise, I think the one that I looked at, 80,000 miles on it, in 2-3 years, it won't have 10,000 miles on it.
Why do you need a new one since you got an 83 model? A newer one, how about that?
Right. I mean, we had a bus breakdown at Broad River a while back and it burned a half a tank of gas as it go up there. And like I said, it's caught on fire, everything else, and when Randy and them have to go to meetings or go to Augusta to get a part, we have to borrow the one from the maintenance shop.
Is that hard to do? Is that hard to borrow theirs?
Not really. You have to notify them a day ahead to let them know we're gonna use it.
Okay. Is it ever a time when you have to use your own vehicle for school business?
I use mine every day.
Okay. So can you have it presented to the next meeting, please?
I will do that, sir.
So we're gonna leave the 55,000 in the.
So you're gonna leave that in.
Just asking, I mean,
That's not guaranteeing we gonna do it.
no, that's not
Correct.
guaranteeing it.
But you gotta at least look at
What year
it.
model's that truck, Fred?
17. It's a long way from 83.
Any other questions before we vote on the amended budget? If not, I'll entertain a motion to,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
And I'm just clarifying. So if we leave this in here, it's saying we're gonna spend it, we're basically looking at spending this money this year, right?
If we leave it in, it's just giving us that, we're being conservative. Like if we don't end up doing it, it just helps our fund balance grow. for-
It'll just
for the
roll.
beginning.
It'll
Yeah,
just roll
so
to
if
next.
we don't make it, if we don't make a
Yeah.
decision in July, August.
It'll
to
just
do-
roll over.
It'll just roll over.
It'll still
So
be
it's-
there.
Okay, all right,
55 will
just,
still be there.
yeah, that's not saying, I just wanna make sure.
Okay.
All right.
I will say before we approve this, we do need to say, Fred, are we getting those buses this year? Because that's
Yeah, we
a
gotta
big
clar-
invoice ticket that will swing our general fund by 500,000. Because I need to get that revenue in, and I can make an accrual, well, someone will make an accrual for that, or like, receivable for that. But we need to know if it's coming, because it's in here as not coming.
So you're saying if we don't get them within the next month?
We need to put it in
you need to
next
make-
year's
put it in
budget.
next. So Fred, are we getting our buses in the next month?
I was on the phone with him last night and he's supposed to contact me back this morning. I told him if I had to, I'd get 4 drivers to go to Macon and pick them up myself.
If the buses are committed and they're just waiting on a single part, can it be invoiced and paid for without receiving the bus?
He had said no before.
Why is that?
I mean, if they're committed and they're there and they're our buses, I don't see why.
Just send it, let them send us the keys.
Send us the keys and send us the invoice.
Yeah. I'm just asking. Yeah, that's
They're
a good
too
question.
busy building electric buses, the reason they're behind.
In my business, I know how it works. If you pay somebody before they do something.
Then you don't get it.
you'll get it, but it's like pulling teeth sometimes to get it if they've already got their money.
If we get the titles to the bus and we get an invoice.
So you saying you should find out something in the next day or two?
He's supposed to call me back this morning.
So that's something you could change as far as,
Yeah.
we could, we could approve this budget with the understanding that if the buses are not coming, that'll roll till next year. If they are coming, it'll be in this year's.
Yes.
Okay.
With that $120,000 that local has to spend.
Right.
We didn't talk about that one time, right? I'll make a motion, we approve it as presented,
To have a
with the
second.
exception of the bus rollover to next year's budget.
Depending on,
Yeah.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mulgrew. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
All right, the next is the 24 tentative budget.
Okay, so this is our next year's budget versus what we just approved for fiscal year '23, the amended general fund budget. As you can see, we took a big hit from QBE. We are reduced by almost $1 million. Impact aid revenue, we never budget for this. That might be something we want to consider budgeting for. But then again, it's not definite. I have in here that we were going to spend those 2 buses that we had 6 that were granted to us at 100 at the price, and we had to fund the local. We've spent 4 in fiscal year '23, so I was gonna do the 2 here. We can think about that. But that's the bus bond revenue, how it reduced, because we were receiving revenue for 4 buses, now we're only receiving it for 2. We don't budget for tuition. We receive that as an extra little money saver, and then 30,000 for Head Start. I took that out of our revenues because it's also offset by expenditure, so it's really it's a wash, but you'll see the revenue reduced and you'll see the expenditure reduced by that same amount. So overall, it's $1.4 million that we're less revenue than last year, a change in revenue from last year. Most of it is QBE.
Do you want to explain what that one particular item is?
It's the equalization.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
They don't understand equalization is why I'm trying to say that. And I'm not sure some people in accounting at the State Department understands, but here's a video on equalization that they try to explain so that everybody understands what equalization is. So we're going to play the video real quick and let you look at it and see if this helps. Go, Michael. Volume?
It's gonna start in.
I want to tell you about 2 elementary schools in Georgia, located only 3 miles away from each other. School A receives over $10,000 for every student. School B, only $8,200. That means for every 20 students they teach, School A is given an additional $42,000. That's money that can buy computers, repair the roof of the school, or hire an additional teacher. How is this possible? The answer? School A and School B are in different counties. In Georgia, local property taxes make up over 40% of school budgets. If the housing prices are high in one county, it's relatively easy to pay for schools. If property values are low, however, the taxes that school receives will also be low. When Georgia lawmakers made the law deciding how schools should be given money, they knew property taxes made the playing field unfair. If the state gave every school the same amount of money, then those counties with high property values would be able to give their kids many more opportunities than the schools with low property values. So they created the equalization grant. The grants provide additional money to districts with low property values. Every year, the state ranks all schools based on how much money they raise in local taxes, then gives more state money to those districts that fall below a certain threshold. For the first 15 years, school districts below the 90th percentile were given grants, meaning that the state gave additional money to 163 districts. In 2000, the formula was changed to the 75th percentile. This lowered the amount of money given to low-wealth districts considerably. In 2012, the state began calculating without considering the top and bottom 5% of districts, and the equalization threshold was lowered to the 50th percentile. The end result is that Georgia provides hundreds of millions of dollars less to the school districts that need it most, and how two schools 3 miles away from each other can have huge differences in the opportunities for their students. Equalization was put in place because the state has a constitutional obligation to provide an adequate public education to all students. Lawmakers must protect and bolster equalization as a way to treat all students, regardless of where they live, as equal.
Last year, we received in the Educational Equalization Funding Grant, we received $1.049781, or $1,049,781 in Education Equalization Funding Grant. This year, for whatever reason, we did not get that. Now, I have asked Amy Rowell and others to give us an explanation. They said that that calculation is not available at this time. They'll share it when the calculation is available. At this point, we don't know where we fall on that grant. We do know that we didn't get the equalization grant according to the QBE sheet. So that's that million, well, actually it's 989,000. If you add back that million, then that top figure changes drastically. So that's what has caused that top figure to change drastically.
But we're gonna get something, we just don't know.
We don't know that we're gonna get anything.
We may not get anything.
According to Kay Buffer, there was times that we didn't get anything in equalization. Now, in this particular year, last year we got it, 2 years before that we got it. This coming year, right now, they're saying we're not gonna get it. I don't know that. And I talked to the gurus that I know at the State Department and other superintendents that have helped me with this. That document has not come out yet, but it is a calculation done at the State Department. And percentages get it, as you just saw by that little video, and others don't. So that's where the million is missing right there.
So for this past school year, this 2023,
Yes, sir.
2022, 23, we did get it?
Yes, sir. We got a million.
49, yeah, right.
Right, that's it. That's what we got last year.
And you're saying they've sent something saying we're not gonna get it?
Right, this year for FY '24, we get another one of those sheets. It looks just like that.
Okay.
It's just missing that. That's not on there. It shows a 0, which is what Michael's showing right there.
So from one year to the next, they can drop $1 million off?
Absolutely. They can drop more than that. But in this particular case, they're dropping that million off based on the property values in Lincoln County is what it's supposedly computed by. And that's done for every county and city school in the state on who receives this equalization and who does not.
There goes that CD. But you got 900,000 in, what was this?
So
The
what's
high and
your,
middle school QBE difference, right? Isn't it right? 900,000?
For
The over in QBE in the middle and high school combined.
we have money that is not coming from QBE that we have to spend. Yes, we are spending more than that because of the cost per teacher, and as Ms. Dukes identified earlier, the cost of health insurance has gone up greatly as well this year. $635 per month per person.
That's the increase?
That's the increase.
Is this something to be alarmed by, Ms. Dukes?
What'd you say?
Is this something to be alarmed about?
Oh, yeah, because we've been spending as if we had $1 million extra.
When will this calculation come out from the state board?
When does it come out for this?
Yes.
It comes out usually in June or maybe even in May. For whatever reason, we get this usually in April or May, and then we start doing budget stuff.
This is 5.9. But we, like I said, you won't know the result. We just know we're not in the bottom 50%.
In the definite, yeah.
We're above 50%. We know that. We just don't know where.
How much would you have to raise the millage rate to get that $1 million?
That's depending on the other counties.
I'm talking about on our county.
I was talking for us to get that money back.
Yeah.
Better question is, what's the value of 1 mil?
What's the chance we're gonna get some of that?
At this point, I would say zero, but I don't know that. I haven't gotten any response back. And in the past, when they send you this sheet, they don't make an adjustment until the mid-year adjustment. Mid-year would be in December. And they do that so that if you get an influx of, let's say, we get 60 more first grade students at the elementary school. Well, at the mid-year adjustment, then you get some more of those kids, so you get an increase in your QBE to help cover and pay for those children you got in. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it till the following year. So that mid-year adjustment helps, but that's the only place I've seen an adjustment like this. That's part of the headache of dealing with the state and dealing with the way QBE and funding works.
When was the last year that we did not get equalization? Did we say that? Do we remember that? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know.
This is my 5th year on here, and I don't remember this coming up.
I'm thinking that it was 6 years ago.
Okay.
I'm thinking, what?
You on it the first time? Or Jason had said he was on it one
Yeah,
time.
he did say it.
I remember Jason talking about it, I don't know.
I was on it 6 years ago, but I was trying to think, I don't remember.
Jason spoke on it when he was here before, the past chairman.
It's such a,
2019, didn't get it. It's 2019, QB equalization, 0.
Zero.
Is that the initial?
It's hard to believe to swing that much.
yeah.
$20 million.
Well, and the swing of $1 million is huge for us when our whole QBE is only 10 million or 9 million.
Right.
It'd be different if it was 39 million, so it would swing that much, but that's a lot.
That's a
It really
big
is.
jump,
That's a
yeah.
lot to try and
From our
overcome.
overall budget, to swing $1 million.
Yeah, don't change the midterm.
That was initial or that was midterm?
It's both of them, it don't change the midterm. You get it again.
I will say, when I went to the training for this equalization, if we're that 26, if they give it, let's say they give it to the top 25, Lincoln County could be 24 one year and 26 the next year, depending on the other districts. So that's how we can be in and out on that cut line.
So the cut line is zero?
I don't know the cut
50%.
line,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's a moving
Either get
number.
it
So you get it or you don't.
yeah, who's up below us, above us, their property taxes could go up. It's just,
It's not like
every
it's
year.
sliding.
So
We're
if you
not
just
gonna
miss
get
it, you don't get a percentage, you get none.
None.
That's correct.
So it's not like, oh, you're right above it, so you're gonna get 40%
Well,
of
if you're
it.
above, you're gonna get it.
Or if
If
you're
you're below, you
below.
won't, correct.
But if you're like one below, you're
Don't
just
get it.
out
So
completely.
that's what's happening to us, I'm thinking. We're
So, yeah, you
always
wouldn't get
right
500, you wouldn't get 500,000, is what I'm saying. They don't say, oh, we're not gonna cut you the whole.
What did we do? in
You're either
19?
in or out.
I
In or
don't
out.
remember that.
Well, we provided a budget that did show some deficit, and we approved that deficit, and as you remember, the way Kate Bufford budgeted, we could always count on 750,000 that she over in expenditures and under in revenues. And we were able to provide a budget and not spend as much as we did in different things like maintenance, and we just didn't spend as much. We had to do it that way.
We didn't get anything 20 either.
Last year, the first year we got it.
Yeah, we ain't getting 20 or 19.
The impact aid is not included in that though, correct?
No,
So-
impact aid is totally
So
different.
in the event, I mean, and I don't know of a time that we didn't get the impact aid. I don't think there was ever a
We've always
time.
gotten impact aid.
Yeah, so that will change that $250,000. So instead of 900, instead of the 989, you know, we would actually have $250,000 of that as long as we get the impact aid, which we've always got.
Yeah, I've always gotten it.
Yeah.
I was thinking we had always got it. Oh, we have.
To my knowledge, we
Sometimes it
don't.
was less than that, though.
That's correct. It
Yeah.
did fluctuate. I remember one year it was like 272,000. I remember one year it was like 239, 36,000, somewhere in that range. It
That's
does
based on the
fluctuate.
taxes though, too. isn't it? 'Cause
It's based on
tax.
taxes and based on the property that's at the lake.
It's
That's
tax
what
core
that's based on.
property, yeah.
Around 20.
They ain't getting rid of it, so I mean,
No,
it's.
they're not selling it.
20 and 19 and 20 we didn't get it. We only got 119. So next year we better plan.
Y'all go, I need a 5 minute.
Could be high.
2 minute break. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dukes, I just wanted to explain what that 989 was about. and I thought it was relevant. I apologize.
No, that's good.
How hard would it be to print that, some proposed budget?
Print what is up there?
That piece of paper.
I can do that. We can send it
I
to
like to
Brenda.
write on it, cause I got the notes on it,
Yeah.
I didn't print it. I printed the other one, but I didn't print it.
How many, everyone want one?
Is this in color anyway?
I don't.
Yeah, about to say, keep pushing it.
You press the print?
It's not in color, all right. Is it right side, seats?
As you look at the FY '24 budget changes for the budget we're talking about, you can see on the expenditure side, that add half year of state health for certified, and you can also see add half year of state health for non-certificated. And that's $635 per month that's out there.
So that's $560,000 more dollars that that's gonna cost us.
And they took $1 million away from us.
Yeah.
So we got double hit there.
Take three and then pass it.
3 and past 3.
Take three and then pass it then.
Almost at L's now.
We're almost there.
Should be 3 sheets. 3, yes, sir. And that's it, that's the 3.
So that's cost us.
Okay, so we go back to the midterm adjustment, which we just talked about for the 989. We also have the removal of impact aid.
Bus bond, well, this is gonna be a line item to discuss, that this was us, receiving 2 less buses, but if we don't get 2 buses, that can go down to 0. Of more, 400,000, sorry, my bad. Tuition, we do not budget for, and then Head Start is a wash, so that's just there as a reducement in revenue, but most of it is QB. Go down to expenditures that we're expecting. Okay, so we always have to adjust for 1 year experience. QB does not fund this until next year, so this is always in arrears that we fund. So this is always around 80 to 90,000. I adjusted the certified salary scale 2,000 per the state's funding QB. So theoretically, that's a wash as well. That's within that QB number that we're receiving, that 250,000 for all of our certified personnel. We have to add back half of the year for certified employees. They funded January through June in that QB, but now we need to fund July through December. That's about 330,000. That's within that QB number. What's not in that QB number is what we're expecting to pay for non-certs. I'm expecting it to start January 2024. There might be some pushback because it is such a big hit for all school districts, but that would mean that we would have to pay $230,000 employer for all of our non-certs. We have about 100 and something non-certs who have state health. We had to adjust cert increases, so people who are expected to get an increase, whether a master's or a doctorate, that will cost us $63,000. And here's the thing, if they don't get it until December, you know, we budget for the full year as if they're in that position. They might not get it until later, they might not get it this year. but we budget for it that way, so that's a very conservative way to budget. Employee replacements throughout the year, or throughout people who hired. Once again, QBE takes into consideration T&E, so we won't even see this hit until next year. It looks like we're, based off of what I have, I've not done the people from May's board meeting yet, but based off the information I have, we're losing people and gaining people with less experience. So QBE probably will decrease T&E next year. That's just how it works. But like I said, the formula, we don't have that exactly. But we're saving money this year. Might not get QBE next year for decreases in T&E. Department adjustments. So it looks like a positive number, but this is me taking out all of the maintenance overages. I'm just doing a flat budget of just what could happen, as well as took out the expenditures of the buses. So it's a positive. I did not include any M&O projects. Department of Justice Security grant, we have to pay 25% of this. That was the $270,000 grant. We paid, this is what we have to pay the portion of. And then adjusting federal grants. So when people's certs and stuff increase, if our federal grants don't increase, we have to fund them with general fund. So people who were getting that 2,000 increase, this is just an adjustment to general fund. 2 positions were added. I think one was actually added to LCMS. I wrote here LCES, but one was LCES and one was LCMS, so I'm gonna make that change. And those 2 positions total around 200,000. And then this is a line item, but it's adjusting the non-cert salary scale 2,000 to match what the certs were getting, but certs are funded by QBE. This will be funded locally. So up for discussion on all of these items. But this leaves us with expenditures of 1.2. You saw that the revenues changes were as they were, so total changes is a 2.7, leaving us with a fund balance of 388. Well, leaving us with a fund balance of, yeah, sorry, I don't have it. But that's changes to the fund balance. I didn't send it to you, my bad.
Was it on the loan form?
It's on the next one.
Okay.
Leaving us with a fund balance of 325,000.
So that 388 is actually 325?
Yeah, that was changes.
Oh,
That's adjusting the beginning fund balance. So you have to adjust beginning fund balance because we had an original of 2. It's just the way accounting works, but that's adjusting it to get to our difference in ending fund balance from original budget. So that 2.3 is our difference, and it equates to us having an ending fund balance of 325,000.
yeah, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, ending fund balance down here. So with that, there are items we can talk about. Impact data, we received that at 250. Property taxes, if they do increase, like Kenny Adair said, at 100,000 to 150,000. Taylor Atkins, I left her in here just in case it did get filled, but if it's not being filled, that's 64,000.
Is that, can we round it up to 100, or is that 64?
It's 64, she didn't have state health, so,
64.
yeah.
Okay.
I can't imagine not carrying health insurance.
Well, yeah. If we don't get the 2 buses, we don't have to fund 30,000 per bus, so that's 60,000 to add. If we forego transferring to capital projects for each year, this year and next year, that's 100,000.
Good God, come on now.
If we did remove the bus, that's 55,000.
If we what now?
If we, oh, not the bus, the transportation
Truck.
truck, that's 55,000. So,
Sorry for you.
and this is the way we budget, and I've always budgeted. But like I said, I deep dived into our expenditures, and we do have a hedge with salaries 200,000 like we did in the prior years. We always say we have an ending fund balance of 2 million, but we came in at 2.2. So there is a natural hedge, we just don't like to say it because we also have natural things that happen during the year.
I'm gonna call that a cushion, that's what I'm gonna call it.
A little
Instead of
cushion.
hedge. How about
Yeah,
that?
Cushion, yes, yes.
All right.
So a natural cushion is within both of these budgets, so take that into consideration.
But I want to ask a question about the buses. We could forego it 2 buses this coming year, but then the following year, we gotta buy them. No matter what, if it's, as Chris said, if it's 180, we have to purchase those 2 to be in line with the grant.
That's the 2 more.
The 2 more,
That's
yes,
right.
correct.
The
Yeah,
first 4 is not, you're talking about the 2
yeah, the
more.
first 4 is done.
Yeah, the 2 more.
Because we were allotted for 6, that's correct, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we can push it off because of what we're looking at,
Right.
but then next year, it's a
We're gonna have to get.
no matter what.
That's
Okay,
correct.
I just want to make sure we're,
100%.
so even though you make it look better here, you hoping for next year to be.
Well,
a better
and
look.
I'm hoping that there's a lot of adjustments that are made from the state level on the, as an example, non-certified employees for half a year state health. I'm hoping that they turn around and fund that. They should, but there's a lot of things I think the state should do. That would take care of that 200,000 for your buses. You follow where I'm going?
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking that 1 year down the road is gonna give us a whole lot more view as
Better
well
picture.
as, go ahead.
Better picture.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
absolutely. As well as the money that we didn't get funded on the first tier of the Clean Buses Act. So we're gonna turn around and get it the second time, like Fred and I were talking about.
And the adjustment for scale, 2,000 for the certified, that comes from the state?
Yes, that is within that QB number. So
And
that
we-
QB number that's reduced by 1 million theoretically has that amount in there.
Okay. And then the non-cert would all come local if we chose to do that, is that correct?
Yeah.
That's a decision we have
That's a
to make
decision.
as a board.
Yeah.
There's money in there for non-certs that the state gave us.
5.1% for bus drivers and 5.1% for school nutrition. School nutrition is funded with 600, like, it's not within this general fund.
You're correct. And they initially did put in $1,000 for custodians and then turn around and pull that back out.
Mhm.
And I don't know why they did it, but they did.
Mhm.
So the custodians you would have to fund out of local, yeah, if we followed what was recommended by the state. Do you have the custodians in here?
Nope, I just increased all non-certs by
5,000.
2,000.
So the custodians are in there.
Custodians are in there, just
Yes,
not
ma'am.
funded by the state.
Exactly, yes, ma'am, because they pulled that out on us. I don't know why.
And that's a raise, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the raise promised by the governor.
Okay.
Yes.
You promised it to him, but he's not paying for it.
He- That's correct. He's not paying for it for the custodians, and I don't know why. Maybe his office didn't get cleaned. I don't know.
So the items that she listed, and we're not counting the buses, including the cushions, about $800,000, a little more. So if you add that to the ending budget amount, that's 1.1 million.
Mhm, which is our CDs.
Well, I mean, without tapping into that really, but,
You've already tapped into that.
Yeah, this is our,
That's everything.
this is everything.
oh.
You've
so
already
then-
taken that out.
But we can survive with 1.1 million as long as we don't have any more big hits.
Correct.
We can, that's what I
Is
was
that
getting
right?
at. The
So basically,
QBE,
we're gonna be like running on,
the QBE plus less the impact aid, and then you add the state health, and then state health for non-cert, all of that's about $1.3 million more than what we looked at previous. But we can survive.
We can survive this year, but then you gotta think about next year,
Oh, I
we're
know.
still paying those non-certs at that 2,000 rate. So everything is carried over, except like the one-time onlys, like that grant's not carried over. But that's carried over, so if we're not getting revenue for that, that goes down. If, we're covered this year once we make those adjustments, but then you have to make sure revenue and expenditures are always the same going forward to not be affected, and that's never the case. We've never had revenues more than expenses unless we get that equalization.
well, we got that $200,000 cushion.
Yeah, if we had that back in,
It ain't a lot.
No.
$16 million budget.
No, I mean, look, I see it.
One meal is $700,000 based on last year's numbers.
Would increase that 700,000.
Right. And we've gone down every year I've been here. Whether it's been just the rollback rate, or whether it's been a little bit more, every year I've been here, we've gone down. And nobody wants to hear about an increase in taxes. I get that.
No, they don't.
That's an option that you could look at if necessary for the following year. Because this year, we're gonna be all right. The following year, as all of the salaries carry forward,
And so there is a
We're gonna be tight.
there is a possibility in the coming year that there will be some adjustments to the certified and non-certified, possibly because it's gonna be a kickback for the whole state, correct?
Wait,
I mean,
say that again?
on the certified and non-certified, you said it didn't come in until 24.
Oh, yes, so,
I'm saying there may be some adjustments there.
yes, like the 1 year experience, we won't hit that until I report CPI saying these people added that year, we'll get funding at the midterm or next year for those people.
And so also the equalization, we don't know for sure, but then that's a possibility that we'd get it next year if we've got it in the years past. Taxes are increasing, we may not get it,
that's correct.
but, it's possible that, but that is, we are looking at, about 1.3 million.
Correct.
And that's why I was saying, we can survive on that with this budget this year, but it poses an issue for us the following year.
And what you have to figure out is where does that balance in our tax digest fit for the size of Lincoln County? Again, we've gone down for 8 consecutive years on the price. As we continue to go down, at some point, we can't afford that.
We can't stop, we gotta
So
stop.
do you turn around and say, okay, we're too low now, we gotta come back up one, and here's where we need to stay because that fits financially where we're at. If we were still up and we got the equalization grant, we may talk about going down one more the following year. You just gotta find that balance and where that's at.
Well, if you had the equalization of the grant,
We would be
with
fine.
the cushion, we would be close, we would be, but
You also have to go back and
We
remember
lose
way
that.
back in 2008, 2010 range, when we were literally laying people off and those days that they had to work and didn't get paid.
that's right.
And we cut some teachers way back then.
That was not
And
fun.
no question about that. But we also had increased, that was the last increase. We had increased our millage rate way back then. So then we had to try and find that balance again. So that's basically what we're doing, is searching for that balance.
So what's that, who'd you ask about that meal? Did you talk to somebody about that?
Kenny.
Wonder what the increase is per household
No, I don't.
if we raise the millage rate?
$40.
If that, of course, we wouldn't be doing nothing this year, but in another year, if we were to raise it, I wonder what that increase is per household.
You want $40 or $50 just based on their appraisal, the increase in their assessed value.
$40 or $50 per household, you're saying?
That's what I remember something about that last year.
Okay.
People were saying, well, why are y'all raising our taxes? And we said, we actually lowered your taxes.
Right.
Correct. We did.
Even though,
The
their values went
value went
up.
up,
So
yeah.
they thought we were raising the taxes. Well,
And I would think the people with kids in school would be happy to pay $40 more a year for,
I'm glad you're the chairman.
a good school system, but the people that's retired don't want to pay any more money.
Right, right.
But the cost of everything, as we all know, is continuing.
That's
to
right,
go up.
everything's going up.
It's all part of it.
So at some point, you gotta make that adjustment.
That's correct.
Chairman said.
Hey,
I can say I made the recommendation. So, Ms. Dukes, as far as the tentative budget, we need to adopt a tentative budget. As we make changes and come back to budget hearings, we have to display those changes to the community and obviously the board, but the community. We display the changes, but then we can approve after we have our required budget hearings. Am I correct?
Yes.
So at this point, we would ask to adopt the tentative budget with the changes that we were talking about.
Yes, what changes, so adopting it without the changes and then we come back with the changes? Or what changes exactly do we want to put in? Do we want to put in impact aid? Let me just make a note of everything we want to change. So what are the items we want to change?
I would like for that 989 at the top to be taken out. I would like to have that.
Yeah.
There you go. Make that recommendation.
I'd like to have that money.
Make that a plus.
Oh, yeah.
So do we want to, let me go through the changes. Do we want to add in impact aid? Do we want to keep the non-cert salary scale of $2,000? For this one, because we're adopting a tentative one. I can make these edits as we discuss things throughout the next weeks of which ones we want to remove and add.
I mean, I think we can add impact aid. I mean, I don't know of a time that we've not ever gotten it. Now, we don't know that it'll be that figure, but
Do we ever add it?
We've always gotten it. I will say,
we don't have to. I mean, I
this
know
is the
Kay-
first
Kay
year
never
that we
would.
have
Kay would
federal
not. That's correct.
having ESSER, that they're funding everyone. But, I mean, if impact aid comes from a different bucket, we
Right.
should be fine. But if impact aid just comes from federal and they're already down because of ESSER, and ESSER is messing up everyone across the whole United States, not just Georgia,
Right.
they might not have the money. But if it's from a different bucket, then we always receive it. So we can not be conservative and add that in.
I'm not in favor of that.
Of adding it.
Yeah.
We've never added it before, right?
That's correct.
No, she's
Jay
added
Bufford
it.
would not add it.
Yeah.
To be safe.
Can we pull?
Not guaranteed, right?
That's
No,
correct.
it's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
The only thing I see with it is taxable land. And
It
so
is.
basically, they would be saying, we're not paying you the taxes on the land that's in your county if they decide not to give you that,
That's right.
which I have a hard
I'm
time.
ready to go sue them to get your money.
Well, I'm not gonna do that, but
I wish we'd take that money and just put it up every year and forget we got it, when we were running into stuff like this. Can we legally do that or not?
That's what we had to do for 3 years back when we,
Build it back up.
yeah, they were holding checks one
Yeah.
year and we didn't give them. Oh, and also, I'm sorry, in the department adjustments, I forgot to say that we are funding a 272,000 technology project. So that's a part of that too, that's within our expenses. So even though it looks like a positive, that's because I took out all the M&O, which was at 220, but we have to add back in all these other adjustments. And I think y'all's third sheet shows, if you look at technology project, that's how much that affects our fund balance. I don't know if that's definite, sorry, those are all the changes that I
Yeah,
made.
zoom in on
I'm so sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
so if you go
I
down,
want it printed, yeah.
yeah, so technology project, if you look at the side,
What's everything in red? What's that mean?
Those are-
Danger?
those are just big adjustments. So like the 272 is a project that technology has in place for us to replace all the desktops. I don't know if that's definite. I don't know if we need to, I don't know what's been communicated, but if that's not definite, maybe we move it to next year when we build up, get impact aid to fund it.
Is that ESSER?
that's the computers.
ESSER money?
272, that's that.
Can't be, it's not
So
estimate.
what's that for?
272 is the computers, the placing the,
Teacher
what do they
desktops.
call it?
Chrome?
Teacher does.
Teacher desktops.
That's what that
So is
is.
that
Teacher
something-
desktops
Is
is
that
what
automatic
that
or
is.
something we had to?
Well, that's something that he puts on a rotational cycle, because they continue, obviously they wear out over time, and he puts that on a continuous cycle. Could we push that back a year? Sure, but you're looking at increasing the cost maybe, just like on a bus. And in the past, before we had ESSER funds, we had used impact aid to fund our technology need. That's how we got so many Chromebooks and how we got so many desktops. We have used impact aid for that.
Well, that's a-
So even if do you have to do them all at one time?
No. Go ahead.
Can I speak for him?
Sure.
Okay. The teacher desktops are from 2016. He likes to put them all at once so that they're all exactly the same. So if something were to happen, all the parts were interchangeable and it's not. So that's just something that Guy has done. He likes to do it in batches,
You
like
say 1983 or 2016?
2016.
Do they still work pretty good? Lay off a teacher or 3 teachers or hold on to them books? Which one would you do? That's how you ask it, right? Is that in there for next year, you said?
It's in there right now, so that could save us another almost 300,000. Or, I think in the past, because I talked to Kay, she says that she'll only budget something like this if it's covered by impact aid. So she'll say, you can get it if we get impact aid and then expend it. So if we get impact aid, then say, it's a go-ahead, go.
Oh. Is that
That's
what we
another
pay for all
one,
of
that's
it?
another one in cushion.
Which is how we have done it in the past.
Dr. Wolski, do you need new?
I'll take the teachers every time.
Okay. You'll keep that computer?
We'll get by, we always have.
Okay. I just need to know what you thought.
What kind of bind would we be in if we had not got the ESSER funds? I mean, we'd be,
Well, the first thing we would have done for the facility things is we would have pulled that out of the state funding that we could receive for the elementary school. The high school, middle school is not old enough to receive state funding for, so we would have had to somehow figure out how to fund the HVAC units up on top of the high school as an example. So
rob Peter to pay Paul.
we get state funds to put things back together, but you can't use state funds for the high school, middle school until that building's 20 years old. That's their rule.
And ESSER, I don't know if y'all remember, but this was the first year that we added back art, music, and all that into this year. So that's more than 3 people that we were funding for 2 years on ESSER, and that got back in. So you have to roll that forward. They're expenses that we weren't looking at. Like, we're looking at our balance in that year, but we're not realizing we have to now fund that for forever.
That was about 375,000, if I remember correctly.
And then the instructional specialists are out this year, but Title's funding it. So if Title funds it, which I don't know how much, I put it in the budget that
How much
Title
is
was
Title?
paying, all of it.
What was it? How much did Title I fund again? 75%?
No, 100%. 2 of them at 100%. Title
I
I is
put it in as 100%.
Roughly about 209,000, I think is what we
Yeah,
need.
I-
Is what Title I gave
Yes,
to.
that's paying the benefits and the salary and everything.
And extended year.
Yes.
And I put that in all Title I funded, so you won't see the wash on general fund for that. But that just means that Title I now can't spend what they usually spend on other things, and y'all had to cut those items. I don't know what exactly y'all cut, but y'all cut 209,000 of Title I funds. And now they have to monitor them, because since they're federally funded, they now have to be on you have to prove that they're doing it, because if you're federally funded, you have to prove you're, actually doing something good. So now we're on that cycle, so if we can't prove it, then they might have to come out, but we're gonna prove it, I guess.
Yes.
You can't rob Peter to pay Paul, right?
Not long.
No,
On what you're talking about.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I don't know exactly what y'all cut, in Title I, but that's 209,000 that we usually spend on something else. Was it supplies or is it people?
Supplies,
Yeah, so
part-time.
who's paying for those supplies? We're just not getting them?
We're just not.
Well, now, we
getting
spent
it.
several hours meeting with
Right.
principals, and with the leadership team, we discussed that person is more important than some of the supplies. That what they do for the students, face-to-face, is much better. So that was a decision made by this entire leadership team.
Mr. Williams, I see yours, 47,000. What's the increase in that for?
We're
It
taking
says-
on some of that Title I stuff, pay for books and math. You got math.
So we
now.
took it out, we put it back in the
Well,
service.
let me not say that.
That's what
It's
I
some, no, we got new math standards, so we are purchasing. We have not in the past 3 years purchased a lot of textbooks. We only spent like $11,000 last year. But with the new math standards, we are purchasing workbooks for the teachers to help them in the transition to the new. So we're going to kind of get back in line this year and next year of those expenditures that we would normally spend on textbooks. For the last 3 years, we have been very frugal and not spending much textbook money. So that's gonna kind of stay around that 50 to 60. And then you have new English standards next year. So that's gonna be possible increase we'll have. That will increase that next year with the new English standards. So your books have to match rather than trying to get, since they're moving standards, you can't just have a teacher put a 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade book and we pull from here. And then what 6th, 7th, 8th grade teacher gonna do when you have their books? So that will increase. So that's instruction, that's technology, not Williams.
What is the security grant?
Security grant is that A3 grant that we got to replace the cameras and all of the switches, et cetera, inside the schools to be able to monitor the interior and exterior of the schools. And they gave us 75,000 or 75%, and we had to pay 25%.
So it's a $400,000 project.
Yes.
Wow. And then we're still not gonna be covered everywhere? Or are we?
We will be by then.
We will be
Yeah.
by then? And that's all gonna be done next year?
It's all starting this year, doing it this summer.
I mean, so when will it be complete?
I'm hoping to have it complete by September, but I can't guarantee that because there's places they can't get this summer that are being under construction due to floors, or they're replacing an air conditioner where they're working. So there's gonna be some delays and melding of construction projects.
And this is mainly at elementary school?
No, it's about,
Okay.
So are there any items y'all would like for me to add or take off that we want to approve? Or do we want to approve as is and make adjustments at the next meeting where line items, what we took out and what we made?
I think the buses piece you can take out. Obviously, in 24, 25, we'll have to do that, but for this year, I think we can take that out.
We don't have to do it. It's if you do it, they reimburse us. But if we don't take the money, we might need a bus in 2 years and we don't get any funding for it. That's why it's kind of like a needs, we're at least getting 100,000.
Well, they're giving you a chance to buy them for 30,000 or whatever it is versus paying for the whole bus.
Yeah.
So 45 if it increases.
So it's 45, and then you get 30 from Bluebird, so you have
Right.
$15,000 for a bus.
Just makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense to buy it now. I don't know. So that's really just a $30,000 expense, right? It would be, even though it says 200 on there.
Oh,
Well, we're taking away this is all changes. Because we're receiving 400,000, spending 500, and I'm not budgeting for any revenue because I have not gotten definite that we're receiving 30,000 per bus. I don't budget unless I see in writing you're getting this. And yeah, so it's 30 per bus, but I'm not budgeting.
We can always go back and add it though, at any point
Yeah,
in
we
time.
can, yep, if we actually receive that revenue, we can add it. It's just not good practice to budget for something that's not promised. Unless y'all want to change it.
How about impact aid? Just trying to make light of a very delicate situation here.
And it's gonna get worse, everything's gonna keep going up. I don't see it slowing down.
financial gurus in New York are calling for a recession in the next 3 years.
I can see that happening.
Really are.
I've heard the same for Georgia people at the state.
So with that change, could we make the recommendation to approve the tentative 24 budget, correct?
There's no other questions. I entertain a motion to approve the tentative budget for 23-24.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Mr. Madison,
Second.
second by Mr. Munger, all in favor? Unanimous?
Okay, the next item on the list is to set the date for board meetings for the budget hearings. Now, we have to have budget hearing to share the information with our community. We have to have, am I correct, 2 budget hearings?
2 budget hearings.
Right. And we need to advertise those in the newspaper. Now, Ms. Dukes had recommended that we have a meeting on the 13th of June, the 20th of June, which is our 2 public hearings, and then do the final adoption on the 27th.
And I talked to Kay Bufford, and she says that we can have a public hearing and adopt at the same time, so we don't need another called meeting if we want to do it on the second one.
On the 20th, yes.
You can do both.
Right.
Just 2 meetings.
So it would be just 2 if that's how we wanted to handle it. And our regular June meeting is the 13th, so that's already a meeting that's scheduled. So you would have a called meeting on the 20th to do your final adoption. And understand that as you do a final adoption, if changes happen based on increase or decrease, we amend the budget as you just saw us doing for '23. So that happens every year. It's not a have to, but this gives, the budget is a guide on how to get there. And if we follow the guide, we stay in pretty good shape. It's when we go off on a tangent and don't follow the guide that we get in trouble. So the recommendation was made for a public hearing on the 13th, which is our regular meeting, and then a second public hearing on the 20th. The 20th could be a morning meeting like this if the board prefers.
Good with me.
I'm fine with the 20th.
See, at 8:30 again, does that work for everybody?
We need a motion.
Yes, sir, we're gonna have to have a motion for these, but I'm just trying to get a little bit of consensus is all.
Make a motion. We adopt the 24, was it 24, 20? What is
The
it?
FY '24
24 budget, yeah.
tentative budget.
Tentative budget
Yes, sir.
as presented.
All right.
Have a motion by Mr. Heitman, may I have a second? Second by Mr. Madison.
Wait,
All
we
in-
had, hold on a minute.
We already did that,
We did
and
that
this is
one.
for the meeting.
No, this is for the meeting. This is to
Yes, this is
set
for the
dates for
meeting.
the meeting. We don't want to vote twice on the budget.
That's what I was thinking,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, this is for the meeting.
This is for to set the dates for the budget hearing. We can have a budget hearing on the 13th, which is our regular meeting, and we'll do the budget hearing first. And then, and it'll start at 7 like it normally does, but we'll do the budget hearing first. And then we'll do the public hearing, if the board's okay with that, on the 20th at 8:30 a.m. for final adoption.
That's why I make a motion to do.
All right?
I'll say.
All right.
By Mr. Madison, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you all very much.
I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Madison, second by Mr. Muller.